Ah, God, Ninja launching on us. What is up, freaks? Don't know how to jump into this one. We're here on a Friday, a little late this week. My father passed away last weekend, so I had to rush home to Philadelphia. I'm currently at home putting together the funeral services, so that's why I have not been writing bents this week, putting out podcasts or anything like that. But really happy that we're here recording today because this is a bit of a cathartic release. Call your parents, freaks. Tell them you love them. Yeah, I think we titled this "Time is Scarce." My dad was young. He was a part of the show. We had him on to do a weather report like a month and a half ago. He's 54. And yeah, it's been a very tough week for me personally, but I'm happy that we're here to record. Yeah, it's really put life into perspective. Time is really scarce. It could happen in any moment, like it did with my father. I had a heart attack and passed away last Saturday. Um, my parents were at a wedding in Mexico. It's a pretty brutal fucking situation. I had to go fly down to Cancun, get my mom, get her home, then I was thrust right into the mourning process with our family and friends and all the funeral organization stuff, which is a whole other aspect of the death stuff when you're close to it that you don't really account for. There's a lot of planning that goes into it, but that's one thing. I'm proud of my father, and he was a really good man. I had a lot of people who loved him, and I think this week's been a testament to that. And I think it's something everybody should strive for, is to have the impact that my dad did on his family, friends, community. Um, the outpouring of love that we've gotten from everybody, from friends and people I work with, and just people we haven't heard from a while. It's been really, really astonishing. And yeah, so I think we get bogged down in all the things we talk about here week in and week out, whether it be Bitcoin, privacy, the encroaching state. But at the end of the day, family is most important. And having a loving family and a strong family, it's really helping us get through this really tough time. Yeah, I guess that's all I have to say about that. It's a shit week. Really came out of nowhere. Was not expecting it. Again, my dad was really young, so it sucks. It hurts, but we will get through this. Unfortunately, we will not have any weather reports moving forward unless he somehow contacts us from the other world.
We love you. We love you, Marty. We love your dad. We love your family, and we're gonna make him proud.
Yeah, that's the one thing I think. The It gives me solace. I mean, I know he was very proud. He was my biggest fan. He was our biggest fan. He texted me, called me after every episode, critiquing it, saying what he liked, and he was a freak at the end of the day. So not only did I lose a father, but we lost a freak as well. Um, and I know because he told me that he was really proud of what we're doing, and he was a big fan of Matt Odell and Rabbit Hole Recap, TFTC, Citadel Dispatch. He talked about all of it and shared everything with his friends. So, um, yeah, it's going to be tough. But the show must go on, as they say.
I told Marty we could skip this week. Marty said, "Fuck that! I need it.
Yeah,
We're doing it."
and we have to be able to continue to say that we do it every week. So it's part of the selling point of RHR. We've been doing it week in and week out, minus that one time over Christmas where we fucked up. But
That was like, I mean, I'm gonna defend us. It was like week 8 or something. It's very early on
yes,
in this streak. So The streak
Yeah,
is quite strong. And I agree. I think I mean, it's good to honor your father.
yeah, yeah. It sucks. There's no, yeah. It's the weird part of this whole process is he made a very big impact on everybody he came in contact with. We have a really strong community here in our hometown. He ran the coffee shop, as I've talked about many times, and it's been one of the odd things, as it feels like myself, my mom, my brother, and sister, we've been consoling others who are shocked by his sudden passing as well. Um, yeah, it's strong families, freaks. It's more important than Bitcoin. I think that's what I really reflected on this week. We get
It's the
really
most
bogged.
important.
Yeah,
Bitcoin's just a means to that end. And
yeah.
I think I can speak for all the freaks that anything we can do to support you and your family, we're here for you.
Thank you, thank you. I think the best support we can do right now is just to get into things. I mean, I have been a bit distracted this week, but have been seeing the headlines from afar. It is a pretty big week in Bitcoin, and
It's been a
uh,
crazy week.
yeah, no banks have failed,
Not
but
yet.
not yet. But it seems like uh, the attack on Bitcoin is certainly picking up. Um, and with that, let's jump into Clark's dashboard. Current price of Bitcoin is 28,390 cuck bucks. One cuck buck's going to get you 3,522 sats. Currently sitting at a $548.9 billion market cap. We were at block height 783,339. We had that difficulty adjustment as we were recording last week with 7.6% upward adjustment. That's another thing we got to talk about, the screaming hash rate. We're currently 885 blocks away from the next retarget, which is estimated to be 2.5% upward adjustment. Block's been coming in at 9 minutes and 44 seconds on average. Currently 23,649 transactions in Clark's mempool. Ooh, Samurai unspent capacity is above 7,000, 7,029.70 BTC, almost a $200 million unspent value in Whirlpool right now. Um, that's the state of the network. Where should we start? Restrict? Elizabeth Warren?
Patriot Act 2.0.
Yeah, I haven't read your discrete log on it yet. Why don't you explain what you wrote in that?
Unfortunately, this is what I was worried about when all the anger at TikTok was happening. Um, TikTok is being used as this propaganda mission to basically restrict speech on the internet for all Americans. So the Restrict Act is being branded as the TikTok ban bill. But really what it does is gives unilateral power over speech on the internet and restrictions on open source software. And violations can carry up to 20 years in prison and $1 million fine. So very substantial punishments if they decide to ban a certain service or a website. I believe it's complicated legalese bullshit. It's tons of pages, and I'm fortunately not a lawyer because I treasure my time on this planet. But I believe if you are just a user and you circumvent the restrictions, it's a $250,000 fine. But if you're like facilitating the circumvention of whatever quote unquote ban happens, then it's the $1 million fine plus 20 years in prison. So it's substantial. And like most horrible things proposed in this country, it has broad bipartisan support because they can only agree on restricting our rights. They pretty much never agree on anything else. And I would just say it seems like this is pretty likely to get through and get passed. And there's going to be a bunch of Bitcoiners and a bunch of freedom activists advocates that say, call your politicians, and maybe you want to do that. Maybe you should. Maybe you shouldn't. I'm not going to be the one who says that. But really, they're all corrupt. They're bought and paid for, and the only real option is building out these tools and these censorship-resistant networks, so we can opt out. Because trying to use this corrupt system to defend our rights is, to me, is a lost cause.
Agreed. Yeah, I think the number one, I think this gives all the power to the executive branch. So I think it completely eliminates any checks and balances and all of this. And then number two, like the really, I think, important clause or term is foreign adversary, and like the loose definition of what can be defined as a foreign adversary. I mean, that's again
Pretty much everything.
Patriot Act 2.0. They're like, we won't collect data on American citizens, only foreign adversaries. And then it slowly morphed into them collecting all of our data at every moment of every day. And so we could easily be seen as foreign adversaries as Bitcoiners if we're advocating for a monetary system that is not the US dollar system. I could easily see that being labeled a foreign adversary.
I mean, all you have to do is say that a foreign adversary is using it, right?
Yeah.
The bill is intentionally extremely vague, which is an important strategy that is used to restrict our rights, because they can selectively enforce it at will. Javi does make a decent point, which is, I mean, it's clearly unconstitutional. The freaks have heard me say that the Constitution's a shitcoin, but it's unconstitutional because it restricts our speech. So it might get challenged in court. After it gets passed, and that is a positive sign. I mean, most countries don't have those kind of protections that we have, at least. But I will say that the Patriot Act was also unconstitutional, and that still exists.
Yeah. It's weird this is going on. There was a look, I'm going to throw this in the rabbit hole recap, but there was a story this week too, which is interesting. It sort of goes against this whole restrict bill thing, but apparently there's a bill on the floor that would repeal the 1991 Gulf War authorization, 2002 authorization of the Iraq War, which would claw back some of the executive powers that were given back then.
Because what they use, like, it was like a police act or something, right? It was like, if you don't
Yeah.
plan on being at war for more than 90 days or something, then you don't need to actually ask Congress for a
Yeah.
declaration of war.
Yeah. So it seems like they're trying to revoke that and give power back to Congress. But yeah, it seems like the Restrict Act, maybe they're trying to throw people a bone with the Restrict Act going through. And it is disgusting that it's like bipartisan support.
Really broad support. I listed it's important to put them on blast. The senators that proposed it, there are a lot more senators support it than just proposed it, but it was Senator Warren, Senator Thune, Senator Baldwin, Senator Fisher, Senator Manchin, Senator Moran, Senator Bennett, Senator Sullivan, Senator Gillibrand, Senator Collins, Senator Heinrich, and Senator Romney. So across both parties, they had, just in the introduction of the bill alone, not even in the voting. I don't think the voting has happened yet.
Yeah. And again, they're using TikTok as a scapegoat. I think that's the whole reason behind this is to ban TikTok, but they're just throwing in all this overarching legislation with it. Like how come they can't just simply have a clean cut and dry, we're banning TikTok in the United States? Like you have to shut your doors. Like why do we need a bill with all this fluff in it?
Because it's not about banning TikTok. Otherwise, they could just do one paragraph that's just like, we're banning TikTok.
Right. Yeah. It's and I think even the pretenses for banning TikTok that they're using, I mean, they're saying TikTok's basically sowing dissent in the U.S. And is essentially pumping Chinese propaganda into the minds of U.S. citizens via their algorithm. But the No Agenda Adam and John Dvorak did a good breakdown of it. And TikTok, we don't like it because of the privacy implications and all the data they take. But the government's trying to say it's like a propaganda machine, which certainly can be used for. But again, go listen to the No Agenda from Sunday. They really don't care what you're saying on the app. Like, it has far left people, far right people, anti-war people, pro-war people, and all TikTok cares is putting those messages in front of the people who want to see them and then selling them ads. They don't really care what propaganda is being spread.
Look, I mean, the U.S. government is well aware of the power, the control and the surveillance capabilities they get from these social media platforms. There's a reason why there was only uproar when a social media platform finally started dominating the space that wasn't based in the United States, right? When Facebook was dominating, when Twitter was dominating, when Instagram was dominating, when Snapchat was dominating, silence. But as soon as there was one that came out of China, massive uproar, right? And that's what we're seeing. So it's a little bit of they know the power that can be there, and they want it all for themselves.
Yeah. So what does this mean? Are we going to go to jail for 20 years? Like, it comes down like a VPN. Like, if you use a VPN to access something that they don't like. I mean, again,
I
it could
lost my
easily.
VPN in a boating accident.
No, but I mean, many people have said this is like a direct attack on Bitcoin too. The way some of the language is wording, it seems specifically fine-tuned for Bitcoin. And so, how quickly do we get labeled as foreign adversaries? I guess is the question. And then,
Yeah, I mean, this was always in the cards. It's unfortunate. It's the unfortunate reality, but we'll see how it plays out. I will say, I'm grateful that we have Bitcoin and other freedom tech tools already built out and being built out, because we need the tools to be ready before you absolutely need them. And I think it just re-solidifies how important this mission is. I think people continuously lose the plot, especially in the quote unquote crypto space. When you see people like Selkish say like USDC is our last line, like we need to defend it. Like, the whole reason these tools exist is because the system is corrupt and broken. If the system wasn't corrupt and broken and we could just ask our politicians and our regulators to protect our freedoms, then we wouldn't need any of this shit. The whole reason this stuff exists is because it's the only way for us to defend ourselves. And rights are inherently not granted. If rights are granted, they're not rights. If you need permission to do something, you don't actually have a right. But rights are taken and they're defended. And our country has a long history of that since our founding. And that will continue to be the case.
yeah. It's again, I think this is going to get thrown back to the states. I think hopefully states like Tennessee, Texas, Florida step up and say, "Hey, we're not going to put up with this." I mean, you have what's his name, DeSantis, coming out today and saying, "Hey, we're not gonna help you extradite Trump to New York," after they thrust that felony charge on him the other day. Hopefully, they'll see the insidiousness of the Restrict Act. It's so funny too how Orwellian the name is, the Restrict Act. They're very with this one, they're very overt. Like, we're going to restrict your freedom.
Yeah, they fucked up the naming on this one. They got a little lazy. The Patriot Act was so well named. They're usually so good at naming these things.
They're getting lazy. They're not sending their best anymore.
I'm surprised it's not called the Defending Freedom Act. Like,
right? Straight out, we're going to restrict your right to live on the internet.
It's an acronym too. It's always so funny when these things are. I don't know what the acronym stands for, but I believe it's an acronym.
Restrict Act. It's the restricting the emergence of security threats that risk information and communications technology. So they're restricting the emergence of security threats. that
Wow.
risk information and communications technology.
Well, we'll see how it plays out, freaks. But if for some reason, I don't know, there's like a dozen freaks out there that aren't holding their own keys, learn how to do that. Like we got to improve your skills now. The environment's going to get more adversarial, and it's easier to improve your skills when it's not as adversarial. So get
Hey,
your house in order.
you should go to a website called werunbtc.com and just read through that.
There you go.
Uh,
I'm gonna put more guides up on there too. Right now, there's the two main ones for self custody. Is I have a Moon guide. We run BTC/Moon. We run BTC.com/Moon, and then I have a cold card guide. We run BTC.com/cold card. There's a Phoenix guide if you want to use Lightning on your phone. /Phoenix, very easy naming convention, and I'm gonna put some more guides up there. Also, Marty, I was like reflecting back. I mean, we've been doing this for fucking 4.5 years. As soon as we get off air, like a million different things come to my mind. And I just wanted to say to the freaks, like, obviously, as all this shit goes down, like, we're just gonna keep broadcasting. Like, we're gonna do everything in our power to make sure that we still reach you regardless of restrictions. So you can count on that.
Yeah, if it comes to it, I'll figure out how to run a ham radio. I'll get the license.
I have a Starlink. By the way, freaks, you can buy a Starlink with a Anon, the Bitcoin company card, paid with Bitcoin.
That's a good option. I do not have Starlink yet. Still living in a city with good fiber. Yeah, it is crazy that they're really going for it. I mean, it's in its typical late stage like symptoms here. Like when they're losing their grasp on power, they double and triple down and try to take more and more because they're desperate. And again, we mentioned it last week. Nobody was talking about it at the time, but now it seems like more and more people.
Did you notice that?
Yeah, are beginning to talk about it, which is like the Saudi Arabia, China, Russia.
Both
Iran.
Fox News and CNN talked about it this week. Has that?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
With
like the headline de-dollarization,
Yeah, I think they're all listening to the show, reading the newsletters. Yeah, I mean, I know Tucker's producers read the newsletter.
Do you think Fareed Zakaria was like, "Oh shit, Odell and Marty called us out, like we need to cover it"?
Probably. No, I mean there was more moves made between last week and this week in that regard. I think who was it? I mean, China and Saudi Arabia, I think, inked a deal to definitely do yuan settled oil settlement or oil trade, excuse me. And a bunch of people are out there like pointing to like the US dollar dominance on all these charts. Like there's no de-dollarization going on. Well, it's like, hey, that may be true right now, but the the cards are being put on the table, and it'll be interesting to see what those charts look like when these trades do begin settling. I do think we'll have a material impact on the dollar's dominance in the world. Like we said last week, though, like I think it's going to be short-lived. So I don't think these countries getting together. It seems like Iran and Saudi Arabia are officially going to join the BRICS countries in their economic alliance. But
we need
again,
Kenya to join so they can actually spell BRICS correctly.
but yeah, like we said last week, like I don't think. I mean, if you think the dollar is a shitcoin, the yuan is significantly worse shitcoin. Like they're, and then on top of that, I don't think these countries may be playing nice now, but their ability to play nice in the long run is probably not as rosy as many people believe it to be.
100%. I mean, so that's my thesis. I think that's our thesis. I think they use the yuan for a little bit. I kind of still think that maybe they come out with some kind of multinational commodity-backed currency, backed by gold or other commodities, and then. But either way, and whether they stick with the yuan for a little bit or they switch to some kind of commodity-backed currency, that trust is going to break down. That trust will break down, and then they'll be left with Bitcoin as the option, a money without trust. And that's kind of the path I expect it to take. But I think we've been calling for this for quite a long time, the expectation here, because why would they count on the dollar? They can't count on the dollar.
No.
The U.S. government already played their hand on that front multiple times.
No, and then in Europe, the ECB is really pushing the digital euro. And then we had an announcement out of Australia this week as well. The largest bank in Australia is going to stop allowing their customers to take out cash. It seems like Australia is moving towards a digital system as well.
Catan sent that to me. He's like, fucking A. And I was like, dude, mempool's never going to clear again.
So it's happening. It's happening. It's happening rather quickly too, which I think again highlights how bad things are behind the scenes. This is a symptom of late stage empire shit. You have the U.S. clamping down with the Restrict Act, everything they've been doing in the financial system, the backstop, the banks, and I think it's really interesting that this Restrict Act is coming out right now as they're losing control of the financial system. I think that signals that things are really fragile behind the scenes. They recognize it and they need to institute something like this to control the message, because that's really what the Restrict Act is about, is trying to instill fear in people so they don't propagate messaging that is detrimental to the state's ability to facilitate the financial system specifically.
Well, I mean, it's what we were talking about. Well, it's what we talk about a lot. Just the ease of communication in an era of social media and digital connectivity. Just it speeds up everything. We saw it speed up bank runs. So there's a lot of people watching that and trying to restrict that kind of flow of information to give themselves more power to prevent that dissemination of information. And I just don't think they can stop the signal. I mean, they're going to try and trample all over our rights, but they're not going to be able to stop the signal. And we were talking about this being used against Bitcoin. Well, I am extremely grateful for all the builders over at Nostr building out the Nostr open source communication protocol. And it's hard to imagine this not being used against Nostr developers and Nostr open source projects, because it's such a powerful tool. So I just say, really grateful on kind of the synchronicity there of the timeline of Nostr development. And because it's in a really, obviously it's early days. It's still a very new protocol, but it's already way more robust than I would have expected when we first started covering Nostr a year ago.
Yeah, no, I mean, the Ghost Bridge that DJ built, it's crazy. And I think until he built that, I'd seen Abla and the other Ghost-like client, but until DJ built that and I saw the power of just being able to publish and broadcast Nostr immediately, and then Abla and similar clients producing that type of view into the messages being sent, it's extremely robust. And hopefully the Nostr ecosystem learn from, I don't want to call them mistakes, but lessons that were learned at Bitcoin Core. If you're contributing, you should likely do it using a NIM. Don't use a real name or a GitHub or a name that don't use a GitHub account that people know it's you, essentially.
I will say Nostr has the benefit that it doesn't require consensus of a global financial network. So people it's easier to develop on the fringes. And like if consensus breaks between some clients and some relays, so be it. And you can repair those. You can repair that after the fact without significant financial damage.
Yeah.
So there's a significant advantage there. Also, lots of NIMs. There's just lots of NIMs in general. NIMs seem stronger than percentage-wise across Bitcoin and all these projects. Or the early days was dominated by NIMs, lots of NIMs, and then we kind of went through this phase where a lot of people started using their legal identities, and I feel like we're kind of going back to that, which is great to see. And one thing I've always noticed with the young kids, and I've said this before, is this the esports phenomenon. It's just pretty fucking cool how like the top 10 in the world, like they almost never go by their legal names. They all have nibs. So like I feel like the youth, like at the core, are kind of realizing that they can choose their own digital identity if they want, and they can run with it. And a lot of them are actively choosing that.
Yeah, it's good to see. And like speaking of synchronicity of development happening in parallel to all this Orwellian bullshit going on in the world, something we should talk about since it's a Bitcoin podcast. Like big update to the Lightning Network this week. Route blinding got merged into the Lightning spec, which is something people have been waiting for, and is certainly timely considering everything going on with the Restrict Act, giving people the ability to receive sats over the Lightning Network in a much more private way.
Yeah, I mean, so this is a big one. To be clear, it's not actually implemented into any of Lightning implementations, but this is the big step towards that. It's a formalized spec now. So LND, LDK, Core Lightning can now proceed with implementation across their projects.
Yeah.
But this is a big one.
Yeah.
If we're going to rely on Lightning, we need it to be more private, specifically easier to use that in a private way.
Yeah. So this is a big step. Hopefully, I was talking to Ben the Carman a couple weeks ago, asking about PTLCs specifically, like when people plan on starting to implement those. So PTLCs, point time lock contracts, is a different way to open up a channel on the Lightning Network and bring privacy and data efficiency benefits to Lightning users. He seems to think that at the end of this year, beginning of next year, PTLCs will begin getting implemented, or it's at least the rough timeline right now. So we need more of this stuff now than ever, which is just increasing the privacy at the protocol level, and particularly Lightning, if we expect that more people are going to be transacting on Lightning moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, cautiously optimistic on PTLCs. We'll see what that timeline looks like.
Yeah.
I think it'll take a little bit longer. And we have to I'm still under the expectation that we have to close our existing channels to take advantage of them.
Yeah.
So hopefully I'm wrong and mempools do clear, so that's not too expensive. Got a lot of channels.
I believe Lalu is working on something to make it easier.
I kind of just wonder if that's
Hopium.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah.
That would be great. I mean, you still can't even switch, Lightning implementations without closing all your channels. So,
yeah,
which would be, in my opinion, even lower hanging fruit, right? Like, it'd be nice to be able to easily choose which Lightning implementation you use without destroying the reputation and the liquidity you already have.
Yeah.
Still very early days for Lightning.
Still.
I mean, I launched, I had, Dispatch is only audience funded, right? No ads or sponsors. Like, I would completely rely on that SAT stream to fund Dispatch. And I released a podcast the other day, and I woke up the next morning and I found out that for like the 14 hours since the podcast got released, my node was down. And like I'm not an amateur. I'm not pretending I'm a fucking wizard, but I've been managing Lightning nodes for 4 years now. Um, so just little things. It's I love Lightning. That's why I manage 5 nodes. I rely on it, but it's just such a mental burden still to actually manage these nodes.
Agreed. It's
Makes me really appreciate on-chain Bitcoin.
on-chain Bitcoin's getting expensive though. Let's see, where is the mempool right now? Let's see how many blocks we have. Mempool.space, 122 blocks. It was like 210 last week when we recorded, so the mempool is clearing quite a bit week on week, but let's see the average
Yeah, even
fees.
with the big difficulty adjustment, which is impressive.
Oh yeah, let's talk about that. Where's all this hash rate coming from?
Well, my favorite conspiracy was that it was the Russians trying to accumulate Bitcoin without moving the market because hash price is very cheap. So it's an easy way of doing that, and they have a lot of energy. But I forget who was talking about it on Twitter. Noble Ship Bitcoin covered it, and I think they linked to it. But it seems like, oh yeah, it was Sam Wooters from River. Using publicly available information, it seems like the majority of hash, 50% of the hash that joined since January, has joined Foundry, which is the largest pool in the world, which also requires KYC. It's an invite-only pool. You can't like just sign up on the website. You basically have to like go meet them and have coffee and docs your whole setup to them by design, because for whatever it's worth, and everyone has their own priorities. People that use Foundry like knowing all of the people that use Foundry as well, right? They don't want NIMs or anons using it. So I find it really hard to believe that Russia would be using a KYC'd American pool to mine. So I think we could probably throw that theory out, and it's probably large corporate types and maybe some maybe like BlackRock's doing it or some shit, private equity or something like that.
Yeah, but we are here, Logan, just throw this up. This is from, I think this is Sam's analysis. But it is crazy to look at the chart. Like looking at Clark's dashboard, last 2016 blocks, hash rates at 342.4 exahash a second, which is pretty significant. I mean, we were the big debate or the big bet last year was over under 300 exahash by December 31st, 2022. But yeah, just looking at this chart, that's like
Crazy
a,
chart.
a
Just straight up
vertical line.
Yeah, so
I mean,
he broke it down. 44 exahash went to Foundry since January. 29 exahash went to Antpool. 8 exahash went to F2 Pool. 7 went to Binance Pool, and 4 went to Brains, formerly Slush.
yeah, I mean, that dovetails into another conversation, is the concentration of hash at these pools, particularly Foundry. I mean, I know the people of Foundry. I do believe them to be good people, but they are playing the regulatory compliance game, and it is a massive attack vector. I mean, in the No Bullshit Bitcoin post, the team highlighted the conversation that Sam and Alex Berg had. And Alex said, I don't care if it's a million of them able to switch a pool at a moment's notice. Once you're listed, someone can knock on your door to persuade you otherwise. So once you KYC with Foundry, you're on a list that can be handed over to the government, and they can say, hey, I know you're fucking mining. We're going to need you to point your hash rate here or censor these particular transactions.
Yeah, I mean, Jihan can go fuck himself, but it's pretty funny how quick the tides turn, and like I'm kind of grateful that they still have 21% of the hash.
Yeah. Yeah, what is it right now? The mempool mining. Foundry's at in the
Looks
last
like
1 week, they've produced over 30% of the blocks.
And then Antpool is the next behind them at about 21%.
Yeah, an
And
F2
then
pool.
F2 pool is, also like that kind of, Wang Chun and Jihan kind of talk to each other a lot.
Yeah,
Loose alliance there, and they're at 15%. So you can kind of think the combination of them are at 36%, and then Foundry's at 31%, and then CZ's at 11%.
yeah. Now, Braj asks an interesting question. Wonder if there's software that will brick an ASIC. And I actually did see something in the last week. Somebody tweeted out that there might be backdoors inserted at like the silicon level of chips. I'm looking for it on Twitter now.
Well, I mean, Bitmain got caught with their backdoor back
Indeed.
during the block size wars in 2017.
Yeah, so this is
But that's, now we have Intel joining the game, so we'll have American backdoors and we'll have Chinese backdoors, and hopefully neither of them have a majority of the hash competing backdoors against each other.
yeah. Yeah. What do we do about the pool? Fedi pool is the only saving grace we have.
And we have no open source like real. We don't have like really any open source firmware anymore for Bitcoin miners because Brains moved away from open source, which is not great. It'd be nice to have some, I know Block, formerly Square, is working on an open chip design and ideally open source firmware. So it'd be nice to see more of that. I do agree with you. I mean, obviously, I'm very bullish on Fedi pools. I think it's very pragmatic and it's something that we could actually implement within the next year and a half, 2 years.
And that's something we should actually bring up just to send the message out there because we've discussed this at 1031. As some of you may know, we dedicate some of our management fees to giving out grants to people developing in the space. And we've identified Fedi pools as an area we'd like to contribute to. So if you're out there thinking about working on a spec for these, reach out to us.
Yeah, I mean, we always talk business on air. So, I mean, I've been talking to two of who I expect to be the lead maintainers of the Fedi pool project. So,
Yeah,
we're ready to
yeah,
support in any way possible. I
yeah,
think there's what's nice, we always talk about incentives, and there's a super strong incentive to implement Fedi pools. Because if you're a miner and you're basically, if you're a decent amount of the hash of one of these pools, maybe you're 5% of a pool's hash or something like that. Fedi pools give you way more power over your hash because you could be one of the federation members. So I think as we start to see, this adversarial environment grow and become more adversarial, it's in their business interest to try and implement this and move forward with this. And this is not exclusive of Stratum V2. I think it's a combination of Stratum V2 and Fedi pool. Like you run Stratum V2 within a Fedi pool. But I think the Fedi pool incentive structure is a stronger incentive structure to implement than specifically Stratum V2 block construction. So because you can have a more censorship resistant pool without expecting all the individual miners to actually run their own nodes and construct blocks.
well, you could give the optionality too. Like I think it's like additive, like because you could
Yep.
implement Stratum V2 and maybe so that you have your different guardians who are constructing blocks, and maybe one
Correct.
guardian is the one that allows individual miners to construct their own blocks, and they promise to broadcast the constructed block of any individual miner.
Well, the way I look at it, at least it's all preliminary conversations, but the way I look at it is like, so if you have 7 federated members of a Fedi pool, and maybe the quorum is 5 of 7 or something like that, right? You can think of it like it's a multi-sig pool. Those federation members, like those 7, maybe they're doing the block construction, right? So you have 7 different entities creating blocks within a single pool. And then the smaller miners that don't make up as much hash as those 7, because you'd think those 7 would probably be the largest hash contributors of the pool, can then choose within their pool which of the 7 they want to delegate block construction to. So instead of all the small miners all running their own nodes and constructing blocks, you have like 7 of the larger miners within a pool doing it, and then you kind of just pick and choose. So this whole threat model or risk mitigation model of miners switching pools, if a pool operator acts out of line, which is what we're currently under, right? This idea, like if Foundry acts out of line, miners can switch to a different pool, right? You could actually imagine that within a single pool, right? Where, you know, one of the federated members is censoring transactions, so you switch to a different guardian to choose your, but you don't actually have to switch to pools. You can just stay in that pool and just switch who's constructing your blocks. I think that makes
Yeah,
sense.
yeah. And then on top of that, it's like added benefits in terms of creating like a Schelling point to incentivize miners to join a Fedi pool over the traditional pool. Like one thing that miners have been waiting for is payouts over the Lightning Network, which Fedi pools will have essentially baked in since they interact with the Lightning Network natively.
And you'd have an existing it's very easy for with Fediments in general, the Lightning capability to transfer in and out of a Fediment is actually provided by the free market. Anyone can be that Lightning gateway, and they can compete on fees and reliability. So it's not like you have to trust your mining pool operator to also be processing your Lightning payments, right? Which is key to making it more robust. Because in a situation where you do want to exit from a mining pool, the concern is if you have Bitcoin in custody with that mining pool, they're gonna block the exits. I will say one positive thing about Foundry's setup is Foundry by design, I believe, pushes their individual miners to hold custody of their rewards. I don't think they have a large custodial balance of miners because they don't want that liability on them.
Yeah. Yeah, props where props are due. But yeah,
And Foundry
again,
has been supporting Stratum V2 very heavily, and I know at least a few people within their organization are trying to support Fedi pools. So I think they realize that it's a risk to their business as well because they're such a big target for regulators.
yeah, like I said, there's Foundry is it's a bit scary how much hash rate they've amassed, but there are really good Bitcoiners working at that company that get what's going on.
I mean, meanwhile, Foundry is DCG's pool, and I would be remiss to say that it's been 135 days, and Barry Silbert still owes billions of dollars to people.
I was
135 days, Marty. People thought I was crazy when I first started my countdown. That's a lot of days.
Yeah, I was happy to see you bring back that tweet reminder this
It
morning.
felt right.
What else do we got here? What else is going on in the world? What are your thoughts on the ZeroSync bringing
It's cool.
ZK proofs to help IBD?
I think we're gonna have them speak on the open source stage at Bitcoin 2023. They reached out. It seems like an interesting proposal. I don't quite fully grasp it, which is why I'd like to have more discussion around it. But the general idea is easier node syncing. So it reduces the lift to start a node up. And on that note, by the way, freaks, we're still giving away open source contributor tickets for free to open source contributors of, I think we're at 46 projects that are listed on the Bitcoin Conference website. So if you go to b.tc/conference/open source, I know some of you have submitted over the last 3 weeks. Those the next batch of tickets should get emailed to you today. So if you don't receive a ticket today and you submitted over the last month or so, definitely reach out to our team. But if you haven't requested a ticket, consider getting a free ticket. But But yeah, ZeroSync seems interesting to me. What do you think about it?
I mean, if it's legit, I saw Shinobi was tweeting. He seems to think it's legit.
Yeah, Shinobi likes it and Luke Dasher doesn't like it, which piques my interest. It's
Yeah,
like a good
exactly.
barometer.
Yeah, I mean, the
It's
idea is
run
that you
by
can use,
shitcoiners. To be clear, it's run by shitcoiners. But it'd be nice if shitcoiners actually contribute back to Bitcoin for once.
yeah, but essentially implement zero knowledge proofs into the initial block download part of Bitcoin, which would theoretically make it easier and quicker to download Bitcoin Core. How they implement zero knowledge proofs, I imagine we create cryptographic like checkpoints that you can reference to quickly bootstrap the chain state, but whether or not it's actually doing what they're marketing on, it's above my pay grade to actually dissect that.
And specifically, the user is able to validate and verify it.
Yeah.
Allegedly, it's way above my pay grade too. But the promise is definitely something that we'd like to see if what they're saying is, if what they're claiming it can do is true.
Yeah.
And to be clear, it seems Luke's main complaint is like it requires more trust than just doing a regular initial block download and running a node, which they rightfully admit. But the question is, does this mean that more people will run nodes that wouldn't have otherwise? And I think that is probably the case. I think, most people don't run nodes and don't use their own node. That's objectively true. So if we can lower that barrier, and this is a middle ground with some trade-offs, that'd be great.
Yeah. Yeah. And then even if that's the case, what was James's IBD? Because James O'Byrne was working on something that would, what the hell is it called? Wait a second.
That one had there was snapshots involved or something.
Assume UTXO.
Yeah.
Assume UTXO would have snapshots that would
So
allow
that
you
one you
to.
don't validate, right? You don't validate before the snapshot.
No, you get the snapshots, get the chain tip, you can receive and send, but then it validates in the background. And eventually you have a fully validated node. I wonder if you could do something similar to that with ZeroSync.
And then separately, we have utreexo, which tries to accomplish similar goals. So, I mean, look, at the end of the day, it's good that we have many different options, right? The more options we have to make it easier to use and run a node and more accessible, the better. And the less reliant we are on any given option. And it'd be nice, all these different options have different trade-offs. So users can choose and pick the right trade-off balance for themselves.
Yeah, and there was a utreexo update this week, wasn't there? As well.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Floresta v0.3.0 is a utreexo powered Electrum server implementation.
Yeah, that's what it was.
User-friendly and resource-efficient implementation of Electrum server. It requires significantly less disk I/O and disk space than even a prune node with Electrum personal server. The setup is intended for users who do not have the necessary resources for running a full node with Electrum personal server and only need a compact node.
Yeah. So
if you're and this actually combines assume UTXO. If you're okay with the trade-offs of assume UTXO, you can have an assume utreexo full node running on your smartphone. That's cool.
Yeah. Speaking of smartphones, did you see? Have we even talked about the demo that happened at BitDevs in Austin last month or earlier this month?
I think
March.
you mentioned it. Yeah, right after the BitDevs.
Yeah, it was really cool. Harold, core contributor, basically demoed that you can run Bitcoin Core on your phone, which is pretty sweet.
On an Android phone.
I think it was an iPhone.
Interesting.
Yeah.
We have Flick221 in the chat asking on thoughts on Uncle Jimming, essentially running a custodial Lightning wallet for friends and family with Lightning terminal custodial generated Lightning Node Connect plus Zeus. I feel like this is huge. I think that's a good middle ground. And I think that goes the same with L&D Hub. Blue Wallet is fortunately discontinuing their default custodial wallet, which I've been hoping for a long time. But you can run your own L&D hub if you want for your friends and family. I think, we talked earlier today about the mental burden of running Lightning nodes. A nice middle ground is, you have one Uncle Jim who handles managing the node for his friends and family, and they trust him. And then they're able to have a very easy user experience because they don't have to deal with liquidity and uptime and everything that comes with running a Lightning node.
Yeah. It's happening. Stuff's getting easier. Stuff's getting built, and like we said earlier, it's more important than ever to get this stuff out there because the state is getting desperate, and they're going to try and stop us from doing this. And that's been the big question on my mind this week. Because this week, I think it's been like the biggest they fight you, like headline week ever in Bitcoin. The fight is here.
Well, what about I'm gonna what about you? What about the week they took down Silk Road and arrested Ross?
This is way bigger, I think.
No, I agree. I think so too. It definitely feels like the stakes are higher right now.
Yeah. They're just very that's what I'm looking for. They're definitely higher. Bitcoin's market cap is over 500 billion. The threat it poses to the government, and that's, I think, it's become glaringly obvious to the U.S. government specifically that Bitcoin is a threat. You have Senator Warren getting her anti-crypto army together to come take us out. You had Greenpeace's attempt to create some artwork to really.
They accidentally created some of the most badass artwork on Bitcoin yet.
That was one of the most incredible Streisand effects I've ever seen in my life. That was just immediately co-opted. Everybody was like, "Oh, that's a pretty badass skull. I can't wait to buy it."
Fuck Greenpeace. They're a terrorist organization.
They really are.
And I want to be clear, Marty, because I don't know if Bitcoin necessarily threatens good government or good governance, if that's even a thing. But it definitely threatens corrupt politicians.
Yeah.
But it's ultimately a defensive tool. I don't want to. I think that needs to be clear that it's a tool for individuals to defend themselves and opt out. It's not attacking anybody.
No. And that's going to be the big point of the narrative battle, is really highlighting that. It's like, hey, Bitcoin isn't destroying the US dollar system. It was created to provide people with an opt-out option because it's destroying itself really at the end of the day, just from the mechanics of how it operates. And
yeah, the lifeboats didn't sink the fucking Titanic. They just saved people.
and that's, we have the Elizabeth Warren is building an anti-crypto army. Like, this is literally what she's campaigning on, which is an interesting strategy. Like, and if people don't understand what, you could read this. An anti-telephone army.
That's a joke, right? She's
Yeah.
not actually running an anti-telephone.
No.
Who would know nowadays?
But think about it. We live in a day and age where, like, this is a campaign slogan that Elizabeth Warren is running with, and she actually, like, thinks it's a good thing to be anti-innovation, anti-cryptography. Like, if you take the original definition of crypto, which is cryptography. It's like I'm running on a campaign that's going to destroy your ability to access technology that gives you more privacy assurances and better data security. Like it's literally what one of the most famous politicians in the U.S. is running her campaign on.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good barometer that you're doing something right if Elizabeth Warren's against it. But
Yeah,
we'll see it. We'll see how that works out for her. It's an interesting strategy, Colin.
yeah,
I
yeah.
I wanted to just do a quick shout out because I've noticed him in the live chat for maybe the last 5 weeks in a row. Our newest ride or die freak, Peter Rizzo's brother, Philip Rizzo. We appreciate you joining us every week.
It is actually bullish, Philip
Yeah.
Rizzo.
I was talking to Peter recently because he just had a kid, and I was like, "Don't worry." Pete's like, "I haven't talked to you recently." I was like, "Don't worry, we see Philip every week."
Lil Rizzo, congrats to Pete and his wife. Yeah, yeah, it's yeah, it's that's been one of the not to jump into Marty's dad talk. That's been the hardest thing this week is our oldest. He's completely oblivious. He's only 3. He's like running into the house. Like my dad's grandfather name was Bucky. He's like, "Where's Bucky?" I think that's the thing that hurts the most. It's like, God damn it!
Yeah,
I'm
that's
not gonna
brutal.
be able. You're not gonna be able to learn from a great man like I was. But um, hug your kids, hug your parents, freaks. Um,
Yeah, that's
sorry.
no. I mean, that's we've been going through similar on our side because
Yeah,
we lost.
yeah,
My mother-in-law we lost
yeah,
last year, and that's a tough realization. That they won't get to know their grandparents.
yeah, yeah. Um, sorry for derailing us there. It just popped
No,
into my
you're
mind.
good.
But
It's important.
the
Time is the only thing more scarce than Bitcoin, and family is the priority always.
yeah,
It's important to remember that, freaks.
yeah, yeah. What do we do? I mean, the dust is going to settle here. How do we prepare everybody for
We've
this
been doing
onslaught?
it, Marty.
I
I
know.
don't think, and nothing has changed. The thesis is happening. This is one of those things that I like to be wrong on this one. Like, why couldn't 200K by conference day happen and we were just wrong about this one? But I think it was always going to be this way. There's no way. There's no way that this house of cards goes down like quietly, peacefully.
No, it was never going to be easy, freaks. That's that's for sure. The but that's particularly with the Restrict Act in mind. Like that's something. Again, I've said this throughout the years. I do believe that, particularly in America, the idea of peaceful civil disobedience needs to make a comeback. If there's any hill for peaceful civil disobedience to make a comeback on, I think it is this Restrict Act bill right now, considering everything that's going on.
Well, I will say that one of the most alarming tendencies in our society to me has been a complete dependence and addiction to social media. And it infuriates me how many people are dependent on that crap. But on the positive note, people fucking love TikTok, you know? So
Right?
if you take TikTok away from the kids, they're gonna fucking learn how to use VPNs. They're gonna learn how to use Tor. They're gonna learn how to use all these tools, and there'll be a massive Streisand effect on that. Like there'll be that. Like if in China, like Chinese citizens or subjects, I guess subjects, Chinese individuals, like they know how to use internet freedom tools because their freedom is restricted on a daily basis. So iron sharpens iron in that regard.
Yeah, I mean that's the other thing too with this TikTok ban. Like, not only do people love it, but a lot of people are making a lot of money on it. It's like they're taking away a significant revenue stream for a lot of Americans, which people are obviously not going to be very happy about.
During economic crisis.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I agree. I think it will incite a massive Streisand effect for people. Are just like, what the fuck? Maybe that's what, funnily enough, incites Gen Z to join us in our disdain for the federal government. They're just like, they took TikTok from us. It's like,
This is
yeah,
what
we've
they
been
took.
telling you.
This is what they took from us. It's like, I guess you're directionally correct. We'll take it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's happening, freaks. I think that's all I got for today. I'm like mentally shot right now. Um, what else? What should we end it on? Oh, we should read shout outs.
Yeah, let's read
Boostagrams.
the shout outs. And then we can wrap. There was a bunch of software updates, which is great to see. If you just go to nobsbitcoin.com, they're all listed there. Bitstamp closed service in Canada, which sucks for Canadians.
Shout out to Paxful for refunding their customers who lost Bitcoin on Celsius as well.
Yeah, Gemini still hasn't done that. There's a Bitcoin contributor. I'm gonna get his NIM wrong. OX 0xB10C had an interesting research about an entity that's trying to link Bitcoin node IP addresses to Bitcoin transactions. He's calling it Linking Lion. So that's something that the freaks should be aware of. Bitcoin's a little bit interesting where the trust model is much better if you're receiving when you're using your own node. But when you're broadcasting an on-chain transaction, you're almost better right now using someone else's node because your IP address could get linked to your transaction, which is an interesting nuance, which makes it difficult to talk about. Oh, that's one, Marty. It looks like shit's heating up in the Texas Senate about Bitcoin miners, specifically with the demand and response relationship where they get paid to turn off their miners during high power consumption times, which could really disrupt the market. See a lot of miners fleeing out of Texas for that. What are your thoughts?
I think that's why we saw clips of Pierre on the Texas Senate this week advocating on behalf of the mining industry, particularly the use case of demand response. I don't have my finger on the pulse on how the legislator is thinking about voting on this particular bill, but I think it would be incredibly stupid to prohibit miners from providing this service, because I mean, this last winter proved that Riot particularly helped stabilize the grid and ensure that individuals were able to keep their lights on during the latest winter storms. It seems like these
it'd be
winter
really
storms.
short-sighted.
Yeah, it seems like these winter storms are becoming more common than they have in the past. I've only lived in Texas for a year and a half, but I mean, this last year there was ice. I mean, the amount of trees that fell during this latest ice storm is pretty crazy.
And there's more people in Texas than ever before, so the power requirements are way higher.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is the EU finally passed their
this is big. We should talk
stringent
about this.
KYC bill, which any Bitcoin payments over 1,000 euros fall under, which could have really far-reaching effects on at least the criminalization of proper Bitcoin wallets that you hold your own Bitcoin keys for.
No, they typically call out what they define as unhosted wallets.
Yeah, you see, I said proper Bitcoin wallets. Got to reset the narrative. Fuck unhosted wallets. Enforcement's a different question, but you still hate to see it.
Yeah, what is this called? The European Anti-Money Laundering Authority,
The AMLA.
the AMLA. But there was something. There's like a particular acronym for. I can't find it, but yeah, I mean, we talked about this last year when they first proposed it.
Yeah,
It
they've
seems
been
like it
working
got
on it for a
passed,
bit.
and it all has to do with travel rule bullshit. Again, the Financial Action Task Force puts out these guidelines, and all these countries just so happen to adopt these guidelines word for word. So it looks like Europe's the first one to implement these anti-money laundering rules. So yeah, they're expecting individuals sending more than €1,000 worth of Bitcoin between each other to collect and report data on each other to their governments or the European government, European Union, which is completely asinine. And just think about that. They're literally asking individuals to collect and secure counterparty data. Like, what is the likelihood that an individual is able to properly secure that data? It's extremely unlikely. Again,
Yeah. Well, worrying events across the pond and here at home and everywhere else. And I guess let's read the boosts, and then you said shout outs. There's no more shout outs, freaks. But
let's
read the
boost.
boosts, and then we'll wrap.
Yeah,
You get back to your fam.
important meme that Michael Tanguma incepted into the world, which is there's a bull market for statism right now, freaks. It's
Oh, I thought you were going to say Silvergate is fine.
That too. Silvergate did. I mean, compare like Silvergate, Silicon Valley Bank signature. Silvergate did not have the FDIC come in and shut them down. They decided under their
And they
own
paid
power.
everyone back. I think they paid everyone back.
They're still processing wires, from what I understand. So
that being said, freaks, 100,000 sats to the first freak who clips out Tanguma saying Silvergate is fine and tags me on Twitter with it.
But the
and it
the
needs
more
to be I don't want the YouTube clip feature, like a proper video file. 100K sats.
100,000 sats. But good meme from Michael. We are in a raging bull market for statism. They're scared.
Always has been. Always has been. You think it's bad now? In the 1990s, it was fucking lit.
Yeah. It's I don't know. It might be worse than the 90s right now. Top 4 boost. Rabbit hole recap: $245 million Bitcoin in 84 days. At Nat Gas Immersion, our boy Mike, with a nice boobs boost, 80,085 sats. Marty, thanks for your help. Odell, my Citadel Dispatch hat, continues to start conversations and seeds new Bitcoiners weekly. PSA, Denver Bitcoiners that need real local butt nuggets, aka chicken eggs, hit me up. 25,000 sats per dozen. OBO. And then he has a Twitter link, https semicolon backslash or // twitter.com/ Mike A Clear /status /1638735099637424128 S equals 46. Also,
you don't have to do anything after the question mark. That's just bullshit.
That's tracking. Also, got 30 hens available if you want to start your own flock. DM for details. You can just hit him up at Mike A Clear on Twitter.
Marty still got it, freaks. He's still reading links.
At BTC Realist, 55,000, 55,500. Wow. 55,555 sats. Found you guys a couple weeks back on this modern podcast app. I've been stacking for years the recent, in parentheses, apparent attack on Bitcoin off-ramp banks. Had my wife ask me about fiat off-ramps. In case this trend continues, I acted cool, made a vague reference to local Bitcoins and BTC ATMs. I focus on private stacking and would like to maintain that privacy if liquidity requirements warrant some selling. Would you mind breaking down some ways to off-ramp privately to fiat? Ape Mithrandir responded to that shout out, or excuse me, that boost with check out Bisq. Hodl is another one. Peach
and
RoboSats. Yeah.
And circular economy, freaks. Like, one thing we're trying to build out in Nashville and one thing Marty's trying to build out in Austin is more merchants accepting Bitcoin on the ground. You know, if you're able to buy most of your goods and services with Bitcoin, that solves a lot of problems. And it's important that I think it's important that you don't force it on merchants. Merchants have to want Bitcoin for it to be sustainable, but also Bitcoiners need to actually go and use the merchants that are accepting it. Otherwise, in 3 months, you go there and you're like, I thought you accepted Bitcoin. They're like, what? Like, because if they have no volume, they're not going to be interested in it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, use it for VPN services, use it online where you can. Shout out to, there's a Bitcoiner, let me find this real quick so I give them the proper shout out. I think you pronounce it Alpa, AUPA, at Eat.
Oh yeah, the bar.
Yeah, the bar.
Those bars look awesome. I would love to try one. I need to get my hands on it.
I tried it. It's very good. So if you want to check it out, go to at Eat Alpa, AUPA on Twitter. And they're selling eataupa.com. They're selling these energy bars, but it's like carnivore. It's made with beef, tallow, honey, butter, and some berries and nuts and stuff.
And supposedly they're going to start making them using Bitcoin miner waste heat as well.
Yeah,
that's the plan.
And they use BTC Pay server on their site. So if you're looking to, I was actually looking, and luckily we just told my son it's a chocolate bar because we've been looking for better snacks for him, healthier snacks, and he loves them. He thinks he's.
Is it chocolate flavored or?
No, but it looks.
Got him.
Looks
Everyone's
like
a scammer.
bar. Yeah.
And then
It's a good
IVPN for ivpn.net for VPNs, they use BTC Pay server too.
Yeah.
FYI, freaks.
Yeah, but at BTC Realist, those are your off ramps. Circular economy is more important than ever. I will be buying another quarter beef from KNC Cattle. I'll be able to pay in Bitcoin for that. Really developing those local relationships, I think, is the most high leverage thing you can do. Convincing a local farmer to accept Bitcoin and letting them know that you'll be a repeat customer and you'll be coming back and creating that volume that Matt mentioned earlier, giving them the certainty that there will be significant revenue flows to them.
On this topic, by the way, freaks, according to Balaji, we're going to hit $1 million Bitcoin in 78 days. So if you're trying to stack more sats and you have an old truck in the Tennessee area, I'm a buyer for sats. So hit me up.
Hit them up.
I need a truck.
I need a truck too. At Eric99, 50,000 sats. Stay humble, stack sats. Then
Great advice.
Rander, 8,888 sats. $1 million Bitcoin, 84 days would lead to riots. All Bitcoiners without firearms. I think he meant to say would lose their corn. I don't think it would be the $1 million Bitcoin that would lead to riots. It would be the fact that Bitcoin reached $1 million because the banking system's failing. It would be, again, framing's important here, Mithrander. It's not Bitcoin's fault that the banking system is failing.
This economic crisis will probably be blamed on Bitcoin and quote unquote crypto, hence Elizabeth Warren's strategy. And to be clear, freaks, if there's hyperinflation or when there's hyperinflation in the United States, who knows how long it's going to take. These things end up gradually then suddenly, as Parker always says. That means global economic collapse everywhere. So I think Bitcoin as a lifeboat will reduce, will give people the ability to opt out and will reduce, the darkness and the chaos that would ensue from something like that. But it will be messy regardless. Like that is not something that just happens cleanly.
No.
So just make sure you just have solid foundation and you have your priorities in order and, prepare for the worst and hope for the best.
Yes, agreed. But then they fight you stage is here. It's real. They're scared. They should be scared. We should be confident. We have the tools. We have the off-ramps. We have the lifeboats. We have the mines. We have a lot of incredibly smart people working on these problems. But it is going to take a lot of courage, too. It's not going to be easy. They're going to label us as foreign adversaries. They're gonna probably try to physically accost us at some point and throw us in jail cells. But this is bigger than us. I don't know about us individually, but I think they will certainly target some high profile Bitcoin users, try to besmirch their names, and use them as an example to keep others away. But we have to win on the narrative front. This is the lifeboat. This is freedom technology. We did not destroy the US monetary system and the financial system and the banking system. It destroyed itself.
We didn't start the fire. It's always been burning.
Yeah. We didn't start it. We're just trying to figure out how to avoid it. And if the government wants to label us as foreign adversaries for that, so be it. But yeah, I would begin building up the intestinal fortitude and courage to speak out publicly about this stuff too, because I think that's what's going to take. You cannot be part of the silent majority if you have been, which I don't think many of you freaks are. I think if you're listening to this, particularly if you're in the chat right now, you are some of the more vocal people, but we are going to need more people to step up and speak their minds and fight to protect this, because if not, it's a pretty shitty future, and we need more courageous people to step out and say what they truly believe and what they truly know to be right and just in the world.
If not us, then who? If not now, then when?
Agreed. All right. Back to arranging a funeral. Not what I want to be doing, but very happy that we got this hour and a half in. Very cathartic and somewhat of a therapy session for me. So thank you, Freak. Sorry if I seem a bit scatterbrained here. I hope you can understand why.
We love you, Marty. The freaks are here to support you and your fam. Always,
Okay.
forever.
Love all you guys. That's all we got this week. We'll be back next week. Peace and love.